analyze things.
Hello and welcome to Chain Breakers. We are a Christian recovery program that focuses on the road to recovery using the 12 steps. We use various recovery materials including the Bible, AA Big Book, NA Basic Text, Celebrate Recovery, and relevant resources. We want to make it very clear that this is not an AA or NA meeting, and we are not affiliated with either fellowship. With many of us being members of these fellowships ourselves, we have great respect for their traditions. We endorse them, they do not endorse us. They are gracious enough to let other groups use their literature as long as the readings are kept intact, which is what we are doing. We also do not claim to be experts in the literature. We are simply sharing our experience, strength, and hope with you and the things we have learned along the way. The Chain Breakers experience allows you to be changed, transformed, and renewed by God working in your life. As you work and study the 12 steps, you will step into a future that God has planned for each one of you. We believe that through the 12 steps and the power of Jesus Christ that we can be chain breakers. If you are not a Christian, please know that you are wanted and welcome here. We will pass the basket for donations to help pay for weekly expenses, including free literature and Bibles we give to patients when bringing our meeting into treatment centers for H&I. If you are watching online and would like to donate, we will put the give link in the chat and we'll take you directly to the church's donation page. Please just select Chain Breakers in the funds section. Each dollar helps and we thank you for your contributions. Whether you can donate or not, we appreciate you being with us. Welcome everyone who is watching online. Feel free to put in the chat where you're watching from, and if you are new, so that we can welcome you. Also, please hit the like and follow button so you can get notified when we have our meetings. And please hit the share button if you're comfortable to share recovery and the gospel. We encourage sponsorship. A sponsor is someone who will take you through the 12 steps. We also encourage you to get a list of phone numbers to help you build a support network. If anyone would like a list of phone numbers, please raise your hand. Do we have any newcomers or visitors to the group that would like to introduce themselves?
Hi, my name is Rob.
Hi, Rob. Welcome.
Rob, thank you.
If you are willing and able to be a sponsor, please raise your hands and keep them up for a moment. Thanks for your service. If you need a sponsor, please talk to one of these people after the meeting. Just a reminder that we have a prayer request box located at the front of the table. If you have any requests, you can fill out a card and place in the box, and our leaders will be praying for you throughout the week. And lastly, if you want to get involved, the commitment sheet is at the front table. Just put your name down. And as we like to say here, if you don't want to get involved anyway. My name is Chrissy, and I am a delivered alcoholic. So this week, we're going to be doing a recap on step 1. So we're going to go over everything that we went through in step 1 so that you can see if this relates to you, so you can truly diagnose yourself whether you are a true and real alcoholic. I'll be pulling everything together we have learned to tell you exactly how to take your first step with directions on how to walk that out to prepare us to move into step 2. Remember, the purpose of this study was to get a complete understanding of the disease and the problem that we suffer from. So, because without a complete understanding of what we suffer from, we don't get a incomplete solution. I'm sorry. The AA Big Book clearly outlines what the problem is and what the solution is. We covered step 1 in the following chapters: the doctor's opinion, Bill's story, and there is a solution, and more about alcoholism. You can easily relate to the problem and the solution no matter what your drug of choice may be. Insert your experience to see if this relates to you. This is a program of self-diagnosis and relating your experience to the readings, and these questions will help you to identify if you have a problem or not. Or if you just had a tough month, a few weeks that are rough, or a few years, right? Once we understand step 1 and what it means to be powerless, We can no longer fall to the obsession of the mind and the lies of the enemy that says, this time I can handle it. This time I can control it. Step 1 is the only step we have to get done perfectly. We can't fall prey to be deceived anymore and falling back into the grip of addiction again, wondering, how did this happen again? So, to start our recap in the doctor's opinion, we have to know what we suffer from, right? This is a threefold disease: the spiritual malady, the physical allergy, and the obsession of the mind, right? And that's what we suffer from, and that's what I've learned through my experience. So in the doctor's opinion and the recap questions, we're going to see, and you have to see if you can relate to this in your experience, in your situation. Does the doctor's theory that I have an allergy to alcohol interest me? And does it make sense? So we know what the allergy is an abnormal reaction to a substance. Once I put it in my body, I want more, right? And do we believe that we can find some power that can pull us from the gates of insanity and death, right? So, as the doctors tell us in the doctor's opinion, we suffer from a seemingly hopeless state of mind. But we have to believe that there is another solution, right? And that solution is through the spiritual experience, which we will get through taking the 12 steps. So do you believe that the reaction of alcohol on you is like an allergy and there's craving for more that occurs after the first drink or drug? And a normal drinker, they can stop after one. We as alcoholics and addicts have the allergy. So once we pick up one, we can't stop at one. We need more and more and more, right? So we can we safely use alcohol and drugs in any form? And you have to remember this too. When it says any form, your body can't differentiate whether your drug of choice is coming from the street or from the doctor. So it doesn't matter if you're saying it's prescribed. It's still anything that affects your mind, any mind-altering substance, so prescription or street, right? Because we have the allergy, so it doesn't make a difference. And then we can see in here, or you can see in your own experience, did you form a habit? And were you able to break your habit? And for me, in my experience, first step, you're powerless. We're powerless, so we can't break it. We formed a habit and we can't break it. No matter how much we want to quit, I could tell you with every fiber in my being when I relapsed that I didn't want to drink again. And I would be telling you the God's honest truth. But the obsession was so overwhelming, and I was powerless over the first drink because of the obsession of the mind, that I had no control. And another thing, did you lose self-confidence that anything human can keep you sober? Do you think anything in you could keep you sober? And if it did, then you may not be the real alcoholic. Because real alcoholics are beyond human aid. We need the spiritual experience and the power from God to heal us from this malady. Did my problems pile up on me and become astonishingly difficult for me to solve? Did your life become unmanageable when you were using? Do I believe light emotional appeal never works, so that the message that I better get in this program to interest and hold me must have weight and depth more than emotional appeal? Like we read in the book. It has to be airtight for us. Somebody can't just say to us, oh, well, you just had too much last night, maybe you should stop. That's not enough for us to quit drinking and drugging. In your experience, did you drink because you liked the effect of the alcohol? Or did you just drink because you liked the taste of the alcohol? For me, I know I wanted the strongest amount of alcohol that I could drink to get to where I wanted to feel the quickest. So you can answer that for yourself. And then we see in the doctor's opinion the cycle. Did this effect become so elusive that while I admit it was hurting me, it was injuring me, I could not after a time differentiate the truth from the false. So I couldn't see that this is causing me harm. And the elusive is that illusion of control. It's that where we think we have that control that we don't have. And did my alcoholic life seem the only normal one? And I would have to say yes, because it becomes a survival technique at that point. Because we're enslaved to this drug or drink. Am I restless, uneasy, which is the physical, irritable, which I'm easily annoyed, right? The mental, and discontent. Never satisfied spiritually. This is the spiritual malady, a natural state, sober, which leads us to the first drink. That's why it's so important for us to have the spiritual experience. So we can not get rid of that restless, irritable, and discontent feeling. This is the first description of the spiritual malady of untreated alcoholism. So you could be sober, like somebody could be in the program and be sober, but they're not spiritually fit. They're still restless, irritable, and discontent. Do I pass through the well-known stages of a spree, emerging remorseful with the firm resolution never to drink again? I don't want to do it again, but I do it again anyway, right? So we're making a decision. And where do you make a decision? You make a decision in your mind, and our disease centers in our mind, and we can't trust our own thinking. And this cycle is repeated over and over, and we can't stay stopped on our own. Yes, until we experience the psychic change, it just repeats over and over and over. And why? Because of the obsession of the mind and the allergy of the body. So I just wanted to note that, these steps that we have lined out here for you today, a lot of people ask how we go through the steps in this program, because a lot of sponsorship brings you through differently depending on how they were brought through. This is exactly how I have done step one, to identify myself as a real alcoholic. So as you see these questions, you can do this on your own time, and go through yourself. And if you can answer all these questions as it's outlined in the book, then you're the real alcoholic addict. All right, so then on Bill's story. So in Bill's story, you're gonna see how he was powerless over alcohol, and it's important to write out any reservation you may still have that you're indeed powerless over alcohol, right? And a reservation is leaving anything that gives you any indication that you're going to be able to safely drink or use again. So the purpose in this is to see if through here, if we thought like Bill did and if we drank like Bill did. So we're looking for similarities in this story as you read through. We're not looking for the differences, because you have to remember this was written a long, long time ago. All right, so you would read chapter 1, Bill's story, and be prepared to discuss at the next meeting how it applies to your life. And here are the questions that you're going to answer, and it tells you here what page you would find the answer on each of these here. Did you ever wonder if you were crazy? Did you think you were crazy, using the way we used and drinking the way we drank? I mean, for me, it was pretty insane, We're insane when it comes to alcohol and drugs. And did you feel the remorse, horror, and hopelessness of the next morning? It's unforgettable, right? But yet, we can make a firm resolution not to use or drink again because of what we did the night before. But in a week's time, we completely forget what happened that night very quickly, thinking, oh, that was just that night. We can do this again. So, did your mind ever race uncontrollably? Like the feeling of doom, the nervousness, and that's all part of the spiritual malady. Did you ever seek oblivion? Do you feel lonely? Did you feel fear? You can't escape yourself. Like Bill, in Bill's story, he wanted to jump through a window. But in the previous page, he was talking about people were crazy because they wanted to kill themselves. And now he's at that point. And then what was your reaction to religion, the church, and God? A lot of people put their arms up when it comes to speaking about God. But if you read through this book, you will see God throughout this book. And the purpose of this book is to work the 12 steps, have sobriety, but you're going to find God through working these 12 steps. And that is where your spiritual experience is going to come in, and that's when you're going to get your relief. Okay. Did you know that nothing was more required to make my beginning than a willingness to believe? All you need to do this program is to have an open mind, be honest, and willing. Set aside your own prejudice of the program. And like you know nothing. On the front page of this book, there's nothing written in here. My sponsor said to me, that's what you know, nothing, until we go through this process. And then notice how Bill was instructed to find God on page 13. You'll read in page 13, he humbly surrendered to God. Did I think like Bill thinks, and did I drink and use like Bill, and he was unable to stop? And I would have to say, in my experience, it was yes, because in my last relapse, at the end, I was begging for mercy, you know? I didn't want to drink, but it became my mechanism to cope. And that's how I had to live my life, to get through the next day. I couldn't see my life without using. So next we're going to move into there's a solution. And we're going to talk about the moderate, the hard, and the real alcoholic. So again here, it'll tell you where to find the answers to each of these questions. It's very clearly laid out for you to follow if you wanted to go through this on your own. Have I come to believe that I suffer from an illness? Physical, mentally, and spiritually. So, you know, like we discussed, the disease is a threefold disease. And we have to understand that. We have to understand what we suffer from. Because without understanding what we suffer from, we're going to have an incomplete solution. For years and years and years, I didn't understand what I suffer from. I'll never forget the first rehab I came home from. Yeah, they got me sober in there, but they didn't teach me anything. I didn't know what I suffer from. I thought I was a bad person making bad choices. But I would go home and I was white knuckling it so bad, and I would be crying all the time because I couldn't take it. There was everything in my being wanted to quit, but I couldn't take it. I was restless, irritable, discontent. I wasn't happy. I was sober, but I was not happy. My sobriety didn't last long. It wasn't until I understood this time around what I suffered from that I could be healed. Did it involve those about me in a way that no other human sickness can? Do you ever see that? Like, say if someone has, you know, cancer or you know, any other kind of disease, people feel sorry for them. They comfort them. You know, they want to heal them. But if you tell somebody you're an addict, you do not get that response. Okay? So this is like a different disease, sickness, than others. Did it engulf all those lives that I touched? Did it engulf every single person in your life? I know in my life, it ruined everybody. It ruined relationships, friendships, so many things. Because, not intentionally, because I would sit home and say, I'm not hurting anybody. I'm just doing this for myself, you know? But it was hurting everybody around me. And did it bring misunderstanding, fierce resentment, financial insecurity, bad terms with friends, employers, warped lives and blameless children, sad wives and parents? I mean, you guys can answer that all on your own. I know I got a lot of backlash from all those people, especially my children, because my children are adults. My daughter would go weeks and weeks and weeks without even speaking to me. So on page 20, we saw that we could not just quit. We're powerless. And you'll notice that we repeat this over and over again through this step 1 because it is so important that you understand that you are powerless. You have the obsession of the mind, the allergy of the body, and the spiritual malady. So that's why this is reiterated time and time again throughout this part of the book. Do you have a choice? Like I said before, a lot of people say, oh, they're just choosing to do that. They're just choosing to do that. They don't understand the disease that we suffer from. We do not choose to be an addict. I did not wake up and say, I want to be an alcoholic today. And why don't we have power to choose? Because of the obsession. Is your willpower weak? You see, in this book, it tells us that our willpower and our own knowledge avails us nothing. It's almost non-existent because we need a power greater than ourselves because we need something beyond human aid, and we are human, to heal us. And then you can look at situational things. Could you stop for her or him, your spouse, your boyfriend, your girlfriend? Oh, look at those beautiful kids she has. You would think she would stop for them because aren't they worth it? These things that other people see that don't understand the disease, we could not stop for any of them. Any of them. As much as my daughter begged me and begged me and begged me to quit drinking, that was not enough to stop. I needed to see that I was powerless and know what I suffer from in order for me to be able to stop. It's like if a doctor told you had to stop, could you stop? If a doctor told you you were dying, do you think you could stop drinking or using on your own? Do I believe that the people that can do these things are physically and mentally very different from me? If somebody can physically just stop drinking on their own, they are different from us. The moderate drinker, the more they drink, the less they want. For me, the more I drink, the more I want, right? The more I use, the more I want. Even with sufficient reasons why I should stop, you know? I mean, you know where it is when you're in the middle of your addiction, right? Even if you don't have any money, you are scrounging up that money to go find what you need to get your fix. So again, like I said, this is all, we're just trying to diagnose you with whether and you're going to diagnose yourself. I'm not telling you. You're going to tell yourself whether you are a real alcoholic or addict. Could you take it or leave it alone? If you're a real alcoholic, you can't just take it or leave it alone. You know, I mean, there was like some times where, you know, if I knew like I was out with my kids or something for a couple of hours, like out to dinner or something, they didn't want me to drink or something. Yeah, I could do without that. But you can guarantee as soon as I got home, I was hitting the bottle, you know? And even with sufficient reason. You know, I give this example a lot because it's just so fresh in my mind. It keeps it green for me. You know, when my son was graduating college, I wanted to be sober so bad for that day. So bad. But I was just a bundle of nerves, excitement, sadness, you know, just I was all over the place. And I said, I gotta just have a drink to calm me down. Well, I showed up at his graduation 2 bottles later. That's how bad it was. So that my son graduating college was not sufficient a reason enough for me. How sad is that? So we need to see that we need a spiritual defense, you know, in order for us to heal from these things. Could you stop if you had sufficient, strong enough reason? Ill doctor, this sentence is repeating itself. But even for the hard drinker, you know, they might drink a lot, they might party on the weekends a lot, like, you know, binge drinking and stuff like that. But for them, with sufficient reason, you know, a DUI, their spouse is going to leave them, they can stop. So here it says, are you physically a real alcoholic? Have you lost the power of choice in drinking or using? And like I said, you're going to answer that for yourself. Have you been unable at certain times to bring into mind with sufficient force of the memory of suffering and humiliation of a week or month ago, which is what I talked about earlier? Because we don't. Playing the tape through doesn't work for us because we think it's going to be different this time. Are you without defense against the next drink? And why? Why? Because of the allergy. Because I'm the real alcoholic. And I don't have a choice, but because I'm going to drink anyway. So, you can ask yourself here, somebody told you to think it through. Were you really, this is what happened last time you drank. Are you sure you really want to do that? Is that enough reason for you to not drink? Is that enough reason for you to stop? Do you think that anything human can stop that part of you that leads you to the first drink? Do you think that you have any kind of power that can lead you to stop from taking that first drink or drug? We need the spiritual aid that only comes from Jesus. That is the only thing that's going to save us. And like I said, and it's through the process of these 12 steps, which is required of me to change. That is our only solution, is what in this book. This book is my program. The meetings are not my program. The people in the meetings, the fellowship, they are not my program. This is the program of recovery, following these simple steps in this book. Have you come to believe in the hopelessness and futility of a life as you have been living it? Like, do you think that you can white knuckle it the rest of your life and stay sober? Have you been in a position where life is becoming impossible? Have you passed into the region from which there is no return through human aid? Have you reached your rock bottom? Do you have any alternatives other than go on the bitter end, ignoring the consciousness of your intolerable situation as best as you can, which is denial, or accept spiritual help and a program of recovery? And for me, this was the only way for me. I tried so many other ways outside of this. I tried Chrissy's program. I ran Chrissy's program. That's what I did. The first time I got sober, and I'm not a one-time winner. The first time I got sober, I just went to rehab. Went to a few meetings here and there. Second time I got sober, I did it Chrissy's way. I went to the meeting, started doing some step work, decided that wasn't for me. I relapsed again. This time I decided I really wanted this thing, and I did everything that was suggested of me, whether I liked it or not. And I have to tell you, you see me sitting up here speaking today, but I promise you that when I first came into these rooms, I couldn't even get my hand up in the room. I could not speak anything. I would raise my hand and say, I'm getting my hand up right now because my sponsor told me I had to get my hand up. And that's all I would say, and put my hand back down. So, all right, where are we at? I started rambling a little bit. When I start to think through and these other, okay. So when you start to think these through, do your thoughts become hazy? Because the obsession doesn't respond to reason. It doesn't respond to any reasoning. In thinking it through, so I have the idea that this time I shall handle my drinking like any other people. Honestly, the answer is no, right? But when I read this question, you know what I think of when I was in my using time, when I was out there? I didn't think it through, because when I had the decision to drink or use, I didn't care. I didn't care what was going to happen, because that's how real I was. That's how low I was. Have you said in a casual way, it won't hurt me this time, And after all, like for me, my drug of choice is alcohol, it's wine. And I was like, wine's not going to hurt me. What's it going to do to me, Now, but slowly kill me, Do you think anything human can stop that part of you that leads you to the first drink? Where are we at? I think I skipped over something. Have you come to believe? No, we read that. All right, so do you have any alternatives? We read that, sorry. I'm sorry, I just lost my total place. Excuse me, forgive me. Page 26. Do you honestly want to and are you willing to accept spiritual help? Do you believe that you have, with profound knowledge of the inner workings of your mind, that relapse is unthinkable? Because relapse isn't unthinkable. Do you have the mind of a chronic alcoholic? Is it always on your mind? Can you ever stop thinking about using? If you are alcoholic, powerless over alcohol, and never going to regain control, you have a choice. Have you admitted to yourself that you're powerless over alcohol? How can I have a choice? Do I have a choice today? Did you ever have a choice? And how do we get the knowledge of these things? It's through our experiences. Through your own experience, you're going to be able to see and tell and answer these questions. Are you an alcoholic, and do you really want this program? You have to know that you know that you know that you know that you want to be sober forever. Not for today, not for tomorrow, forever. Can you say to the depths of your being, yes, I am one of them too, and I must have this thing? I know for me, the last time that I got sober, this time, I had to have this thing. I wanted, when I met my sponsor, when I seen her, I first met her in church here, and I seen her up there, and I really wanted a Christian sponsor. And just to see the joy, the pure joy in her heart that she had, you know. I wanted all of that she had, you know, because I was miserable inside. I was hurting inside. And when people would sit up here and say, you know, you can have the peace that surpasses all understanding and have pure joy in your heart, I thought they were full of crap, to be quite honest with you. I was like, that will never be me. I will never feel like them. But after going through this process of working the steps and taking all the suggestions of my sponsor, I can honestly say that I do feel that. I feel that every day, and it's a peace that surpasses all understanding that I only get through Jesus. All right, so we're on to more about alcoholism. I got to move along here. We're running out of time. All right, I'm going to try and go a little bit faster, but just know that all these things are here for you to read through on your own, okay? So, have you been unwilling to admit you're a real alcoholic? Are you bodily and mentally different from others? Has the idea that somehow, someday, you will control your drinking been an obsession of yours? And that is a scary place to be. Because you don't want to fantasize that, oh yeah, I could be sitting here just doing a little bit of this or a little bit of that. You know what I mean? I hear a lot in the programs, especially since it's legal now, that people think that, you know, smoking weed is okay. It's still mind-altering substances, and it's not okay. You're not sober if you're smoking. Have you fully conceded to the innermost self that you are an alcoholic? Do you believe that the delusion that you are like other people, even now sober, has to be smashed? So when you're going through this, go over paragraph 3. Using the word choice to replace the word control. You will see in that whole paragraph where you have lost the power to choose just by replacing that word. Do you believe that you will ever recover control? Do you honestly think that you can ever control your drinking or drugging again? And weren't the intervals usually brief and inevitably followed still by less control, which lead in time to doing things you promised yourself you never would? I'll tell you what, every time I relapsed, it was worse and never better. Because we have a progressive disease, and that disease is still at work in us as we are sober. If I were to pick up today, I would be off to the races like that because of the progression of my disease. Are you convinced that you are in the grip of a progressive illness that over any considerable period you get worse and never better? Wasn't it always followed by still a worse relapse? Do you ever have a better relapse? Is it ever better? All right. So, what kind of methods have you tried to drink like other people? Have you tried other methods? And you got to remember, normal drinkers have the power to choose. They're not like us. They're not like the real addict alcoholic. On your own willpower, can you say stop? No, you're beyond human aid and you are human. So here, this is the diagnosis test to see if you have the obsession of the mind, right there on page 34. Do you feel you have gone on drinking many years beyond the point where you could quit on your own? Do you desire to stop entirely? Have you lost the power to choose whether you will drink or not? And it goes on and on there. And don't forget that insanity begins before the first drink. Our obsession takes over our mind sober. Have you suffered from a distorted ability to think straight about your drinking? Yeah, because it becomes a survival mechanism. Insane. I looked up a different definition for the word insane. Insane here says having an unsound mind showing bad judgment. Another word, utterly senseless. Okay? And if you think about all of our using, it's utterly senseless. It really is what we do to ourselves. We're slowly killing ourselves. And can we say stop based off our own knowledge? Do you believe having an alcoholic mind, the time, the place will come where you can drink again? We will never be able to use drugs or alcohol safely again. Do you believe that this problem has you hopelessly defeated? Do you believe that your problem is a hopeless condition? It says that we are seemingly hopeless aside from a spiritual experience as a result of working the 12 steps. Our problem is the malady, the allergy, and the obsession. So you guys can go through this part and finish reading this part. But like I said before, it's by working the 12 steps we find God and we have a spiritual awakening. And that is our goal. Okay, our goal is not to be sober. Our goal is the spiritual awakening. The byproduct is being sober. So here we're going to see how to make the timeline. And it goes step by step how to do this. This is exactly how I did my timeline. And this right here, after you do your readings, is how you're going to diagnose yourself a real alcoholic. You're going to see your progression, where the obsession took over, where the allergy takes over in your body. Now that you have the description of what the obsession and the allergy and the spiritual malady is, you'll be able to identify it in your own timeline. So what you're looking for is to identify the threefold disease using your experience. If you can clearly see that the allergy of the body, which is I can never just have one, the obsession of the mind, willpower doesn't work, no choice, no defense against the first one. The spiritual malady, you can properly diagnose yourself as real addict or alcoholic, that you are beyond human aid and that you are powerless. This process is known as going through the investigation. And here you have your timeline instructions and how to go over it with your sponsee. So you're going to have them go through the timeline. Like I said, you're going to read it. You're going to highlight every time you see your allergy, your obsession, and your spiritual malady. And then make sure you mark down also, if you said you were going to stop, did you stop? And did you have consequences for every time you picked up? And what happened? By the end of the timeline, you should be able to clearly diagnose yourself as addict or alcoholic by seeing the obsession and allergy that never occurs in the average temper drinker. And then here you have questions after the investigation. So this is, you're gonna, again, and here you see it right here, number 2. Do you have an honest desire to quit drinking forever? Forever, no reservation in your mind. And do you want what they have? Outline the spiritual answer and the program of action, which hundreds of them have followed successfully. They have a spiritual means of recovery. Recovery rate of, in this book, is 50 to 75% after a couple of relapses. And that's on the page XX in the forward, second edition. And another question you need to ask yourself, are you willing to go to any length to get it? Are you willing to go to any length and follow the directions in the book? Willing to go any length means you have to give up on your social life. You can't say, I'm too tired to do that. You know, you have to fight through this process like it's life or death, because it is life or death if you get sober or you don't. And that's how you have to take it. That's how you have to be working this program. So remember, you're not working your program. I'm not working Christy's program. I'm working the program of action as described and outlined in the AA book. So here, we put these in your packet. Do you have an honest desire to quit drinking forever? You can read through these in your time. Because, you know, like they say in the meetings, you can live one day at a time, right? Be sober one day at a time. We don't want to live like that. Living one day at a time to be sober is living in bondage. And you don't want to live in bondage. You want to have freedom. So I'm going to read to you the taking of actual step 1, and then we're going to wrap things up. Have you honestly diagnosed yourself as a real alcoholic? Do you understand that this is a hopeless state of mind and body? Do you understand that your abnormal reaction to alcohol, the allergy, has no known remedy? Are you convinced that you can never safely drink or use alcohol or drugs? Do you understand that you have an obsession of the mind, a form of an insanity that will always cause you to return to using alcohol and drugs? Do you understand the subtle insanity which precedes the first drink? Are you convinced that no medication, no therapy, no physical or mental strategy can remove the obsession? Because we've all tried different means, right? Do you understand that this form of insanity places you beyond human aid? I am powerless over alcohol. I have no power to control my drinking once I have the first drink. I am convinced that once I take any alcohol, whatever, into my system, something happens both in the body and the mental sense, which makes it virtually impossible for me to stop on that particular occasion or to stay away from the drinking in the near future. It's the allergy and the obsession. I am convinced that I have an abnormal body where alcohol is concerned. I am convinced that I have no power to change or control my allergy. The abnormal reaction of a body to alcohol, which manifests as the phenomenon of craving. Once you have an allergy, you will always have an allergy. It doesn't go away. I have lost the power of choice over the first drink despite the illusion of the control from having stayed sober for a short or long period of time. Some people think they stay sober for 25 years. They can go back to drinking and using. You have no defense against the first drink. No matter how much I want to keep from drinking, no matter how strong my desire to stop drinking forever, the obsession will one day overpower all of my best efforts, force me to take the first drink. I am convinced that I am powerless over the first drink. No resource of my mind or body, as I know it today, no human power can defend me against taking the first drink. I am doomed and condemned to return to drinking that I know I cannot safely do, and this is essentially suicidal behavior. So, we're going to move on to correlating scriptures because I'm running out of time. Like I said, you have all of this here. If you have any questions about this, you can see me after the meeting because this is exactly how I did my step work. So, correlating scriptures. Romans 7:15-25. For I do not understand my own actions. I am baffled and bewildered by them. I do not practice what I want to do, but I do everything that I hate. I'm powerless. I have no choice. I want to stop and I have a desire to stop, but I keep doing what I hate, which is drinking and using. 17. So now, if that is the case then, it is no longer I who do it, the disobedient thing which I despise, but the sinful nature that lives in me. I keep doing what I don't want to do, drinking and using. So now is no longer I doing it, but the disease, the sin driving me to do what I don't want to do. For I know that nothing good lives in me, that is, in my flesh, my human nature, my worldliness, my mind, my sinful capacity. For the willingness to do good is present in me, but the doing of good is not. For the good that I want to do, I do not do, but I practice the very evil that I do not want to do. Willpower avails us nothing. That hits so close to home to me because for so long I wanted to quit and I just couldn't do it. But I see a different law and rule of action in the members of my body, in its appetites and desires, waging war against the law of my mind and subduing me and making me a prisoner of the law of sin which is within my members. And that's what we feel like when we're in active addiction, prisoners. Obsession of the mind keeping me a prisoner to my addiction. Wretched and miserable man that I am, who will rescue me and set me free from this body that is subject to death? Thanks be to God for my deliverance through Jesus Christ our Lord. So who will save us from this body that is subject to death because of the obsession and the allergy? Jesus Christ our Lord will. We will see clearly from this study that we are completely powerless over this disease, that we have no defense against the first drink or drug, that we have no willpower and no choice when it comes to picking up again. Step 1 is all about seeing this completely hopeless condition, that I have no power. Step 2 is coming to believe, so having some faith that God's power can restore me. Step 3, turning this battle over to the one, the only one, who has all power. The one who will save us, as the scripture reads, is Jesus Christ. Remember that we deal with alcohol, cunning, baffling, powerful. Without help, it is too much for us. But there is one who has all power. That one is God. May you find him now. Through working the 12 steps and giving my life to Jesus, I am finally free. I don't wake up anymore in withdrawal or in another rehab, detox, or jail. I have joy and peace, true joy and peace, because he who lives in me is the Prince of Peace. When we invite Jesus to live inside of us, he gives us access to all he is. Now, he doesn't promise there will be storms, but we can have peace within those storms. And I'm just letting you know that if he could do it for me, he'll do it for you too. We have no power, so this is all about accessing God's power. That's exactly what we get when we make Jesus Christ our Lord and Savior. Access to his power, which is already inside of us. He will break every chain of addiction when we give him the battle and stop trying to do things our own way. For we have seen that it doesn't work. We have to completely 100% surrender all to him. No reservations. Victory begins with a decision. That is the third step decision to give your lives over to the care and protection of Jesus Christ. If you have never made that decision to accept Jesus into your heart, I want to give you that opportunity right now. Here at Chainbreakers, we believe the way to salvation is as easy as ABC. We admit the truth about ourselves, that we are powerless sinners, that we've made mistakes. Step 1. Romans 3:23, for all have sinned and come short of the glory of God. B, believe that all-powerful Jesus died on the cross to pay the penalty for all our sins. Step 2. C, commit yourself to God. Invite Jesus into your heart and make him your Lord and Savior. Step 3. Romans 10:9. If you confess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you will be saved. And D, do it today, because tomorrow is never promised. People die every day from this disease. Don't let it be you. If you would like to do that today and take your third step now, making Jesus your Lord and Savior, please say this prayer with me. Would everyone please bow their heads and close their eyes? You don't have to say it out loud, just from your heart, something like this. Father in heaven, thank you for loving me. I admit that I am a sinner and that I've done things wrong, and I'm sorry. I believe that you did something about my sin when Jesus died on the cross for my forgiveness. Jesus,